my wife and I just co-curated an exhibition called The Soldier's Lens. Really, initially her idea, she has a client that was in Vietnam in 1968 with a Brownie camera. But we said, hey, veterans or active duty service members or your families, and you had affinity for photography, send us images from any era, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Sudan, Greenland, who knows? And we put it out there. It went worldwide. And by the deadline for submissions, we ended up with 530 submissions from multiple generations and era.
Hello and welcome to On the Grid. My name is EJ Moreno, and on this show we spotlight people who make the Tampa Bay area better. My guest today has been making Tampa Bay quite incredible for quite a long time. My goodness, Alexis Muellner, hi, thank you for joining me.
Hi EJ, it's great to be with you.
Oh my God, I've known you for quite a bit now, so it's just nice to get to talk with you about
Agreed, back at you.
Everything you do. My goodness, I was Googling you, which I love that we are able to do that.
Yes.
Friend, what don't you do? What don't you do?
I'm honored for that. EJ.
No, looking at your background, we have a little bit of photojournalism, we have a bit of print journalism. Tell me about your early days. What started this love of wanting to capture stories?
Goodness, I had a young mother. My mom had me when she was 18. Grew up in the women's movement, and I was born in 1962. So I was in the heart of late 60s environment in terms of creative culture and rock and roll and music, and certainly felt like I was an adult when I was 7 and got taken into a darkroom. And that was my initial love of photography. It was just getting this automatic camera and just have been photographing ever since. And so I think that's where it starts. I don't know, I was encouraged to be creative. I was around creative people, and did mock radio shows as a kid and still have recordings of that. Hi, I'm Squid McKay with the news. You better get your Raid McFade, get that ant killer. So this is I have a radio alter ego named Squid McKay. And so, I don't know, when you have a radio alter ego at a very early age, you begin to formulate many pathways. Some of this might just be a little bit, not satisfied with just one narrow lane. And so I had some mentors early on who I did television where I grew up in Boston and was on a TV set as a young person. And so I think that led me to explore a bunch of different work. And really in college was a disc jockey and a radio. I did college radio and did a radio show called Radio the Way It Could Be that was rock and roll and rhythm, blues, and soul, and it was all freeform. It borrowed from the tradition of freeform FM radio that had a very snapshot moment in time in the late 60s as a countercultural arm before it got co-opted by commercialism. And so studied that in college, went to a liberal arts college in Western Massachusetts called Hampshire College, did photography there. And so I just think it's been a love of media, multimedia. Did performance art and performance and drama as a kindergartner. I just think, I think life's for living, and I've learned in recent years that I'm results oriented, and as a newspaper editor of the Tampa Bay Business Journal, which I've been doing now for 21 years here in Tampa, as in the business press, people may not think that's a creative path as well, but it's completely creative. It's almost, writing and putting together news stories also has its elements in sound.
No, absolutely. I think the business world is not as artistic as people think, but there's still an art to business. That is why that's why we have characters like Walt Disney, who was this weird mix of business and art. That's such a hard thing. And I think you kind of have a little bit of that soul, a little bit of that business and art mindset, which again is a very hard thing to do. You were on the board of the Florida Museum of Photographic Arts. You're also on our board at TBCN.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about board, being this board of director, being this this kind of go-to, this I don't want to say boss man in a bad way, but just this kind of higher up. What does that feel for you? What does that entail for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think leadership is not easy for anybody. Managing people is not easy for anybody. It's still for me a day-to-day, existence. Am I doing the right thing? Am I communicating enough? I run a newsroom and then have these other roles, both with this organization where I've been for more than 10 years, I think, seen some very interesting highs and lows, and we're thrilled that we're at a nice point now in terms of the kind of energy that this organization is attracting, the kinds of work it's doing around creativity, workforce development, and the roots of this organization will stay there are in public access television, which is, I'm a big believer in free speech. I'm a big believer in creative expression and taking advantage of that. And so it's sometimes less about wanting to be the boss, certainly for me, and then but also working and doing the work. It's about praxis. It's about being involved in the community and things like that. And so the leadership part, the management part, is the harder part that I think sometimes I struggle with at certain times. But I like to build consensus, but I think sometimes you need to make the call and need to make a decision. And I think as I've matured and gotten older, I'm a little better at that.
Yeah.
But I also, certainly at the Florida Museum of Photographic Arts, we've also had to go through some peaks and valleys. We were in the second floor of the Cube in downtown Tampa, and it was in terms of longitude and latitude, it was a great spot to be, but a terrible location. I took former USF President Judy Genschaft there once, and she couldn't find where it was, and that was like, all right, we got to get out of here and find another place. And the culture at the time in terms of leadership needed to be changed. The board didn't know the staff. It's always hand to mouth in terms of funding. But photography is such an important medium, and especially in this day and age of digital phones. I have 100,000 images on my phone, and I shoot all the time. I've been still photographing forever. And I think you need to provide a vehicle for institutions like ours and FMoPA to really grow, expand, and get over these humps and provide inspiration and provide a reason for being.
I think what you touched on there was interesting, is being the difference between a boss and a leader. I think you are a great leader. You guide, which is different than bossing people around. They're brothers to each other, but they're not the same. And I think you have that leadership quality, which you do want to just, hi, let me just push you in that direction. I think that's a nice quality to have. It's a rare quality to have. Most people want to be bosses.
Thank you, EJ.
No, so I really appreciate what you do. And again, 27 years of the American City Business Journals, and then 21 years of doing the Tampa Bay Business Journal. Why?
Well, because we need more journalists on the street, right? And also because I work for a fantastic company. I've been able to be my authentic self. I know that's a bit cliche, but I am a writing and reporting editor. I don't sit in the ivory tower and kind of sort of direct the planes. And that's a quality of mine. I mean, I think the social capital that I built by making relationships and treating people well, we're going to be tough when we need to be tough on a story. We're going to challenge the status quo and the power, but yet we're going to be fair. We're not going to ambush people. We're going to report thoroughly. And the value proposition of the Business Journal is to help businesses grow, but it's also to level the playing field. It's to help people make connections as a convener, but also at the same time identify the bad actors, right? And so there's lots of reasons why, because I can, right? And because I've had the freedom, and somebody has seen me enough to say, these qualities that you bring in terms of developing social capital help us grow. And I know that those kinds of relationships that I brought not only help our organization here, are what I bring to FMoPA. They asked me to be a part of the board. I was somewhat reluctant because I'm a working journalist, and part of being a board member is raising money, and I'm not so comfortable with that. I'm happy to try and lead people to it and to evangelize for our organizations and say this is why they should exist and be valuable. So it's a little bit of a tricky thing, but I think the reason why is because I get to do the work, and that is sort of in parallel with having done a lot of the work.
Yeah, I think what you talked about that social capital, you build that trust. If you are going to be a little harsher to me, I trust you more because you've been nice. You know what I mean? You're a good leader in that way. Again, going back to that, and you feel that, and you feel that journalistic effort. So you still like doing your journalism stuff. You're still there. Not that you don't see an end in it, but is there a time that you want to maybe step away from it, or do you want to do this until the cows come home, kind of?
Well, it's a great question. I don't think about it a lot. I mean, because it's a good gig, and I have a great boss, and I have a great team. But I also
evolved as well. I mean,
that's
business
true.
Has evolved
that's
in the last 15 years, even.
Yeah, and I'm entrepreneurial and I love photographing. I mean, my Instagram feed has 3,000 images on it, and a bunch of different bodies of work. I love abstraction and humor and working around. I'm always looking and seeing. This studio is in a mall in transition. I come here, and take weird double exposures because it's just so weird. That's kind of my thing, is to do those things. So if I was to have time in my life to do more of the creative stuff, but the fact is I'm provided enough time to do that.
Yeah.
And at the museum, for example, my wife and I just co-curated an exhibition called The Soldier's Lens. The premise is that she's a graphic designer. It's really initially her idea. She has a client that was in Vietnam in 1968 with a Brownie camera, and his photographs were not quite enough to do a whole show around. But we said, hey, veterans or active duty service members or your families, and you had affinity for photography, send us images from any era: World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Sudan, Greenland, who knows? And we put it out there. It went worldwide. And by the deadline for submissions, we ended up with 530 submissions from multiple generations and era, from all parts of the world. I mean, literally, there are a lot of people who are in active duty who photograph for a living, and then people have these albums of their. And there's a lot of connection to defense and veteran and service. My wife, his dad was in the Air Force, so she's in the show because he's got a picture of him, as a young Air Force enlisted guy smoking a cigarette next to a no smoking sign. It's kind of a funny picture.
Yeah.
And then her mom with a wives group in a luau in Puerto Rico. I mean, it's this kind of thing that these would not have seen the light of day, and we're hearing that it's very therapeutic to the veterans community. And in Tampa Bay, where you have MacDill Air Force Base, you've got this pedigree and a long history of defense. And so while it's becoming a national and global project, we see it having legs over the next bunch of years as a way to find a pillar that certainly the Florida Museum of Photographic Arts can count on to derive revenue, sponsorship. It's gotten some sponsorship, and the show is tremendous. It's just really remarkable.
That is something my stepfather, who loves war movies, but I think it's interesting because war photography, we usually think of the harsher images.
That's right.
We think of those Nam photos that changed a lot of perceptions of everything, but also I want to see the soldiers hanging out with their friends. I want to see those little moments. And I love that you're able to capture that and give that a home. And like you said, that could be generational. That could change next year, where you guys have a whole new set of photos because they just heard about it this year. Yeah. So I love that you have this evolving door. And what a powerful exhibition. We'll talk about.
You just gave me chills about it. I mean, that's exactly it, though, EJ. I mean, that's the whole point, and that was the concept, and it's exactly that. It's card games. It's chance meetings in the street. It's So where do you see it? I mean, it's really remarkable.
So you worked in both newsrooms and museums. Tell me about the difference of those worlds, but also, is there any similarities you're finding? Is there anything that you're getting there, being like, these worlds are so different from each other? One's loud, one's very quiet. Tell me about just
It's funny because each can be both ways, right?
Yes.
So I think that when you have in the newsroom setting, we have a philosophy of being news urgent, meaning we want at the Business Journal, we want to tell people what we know when we know it, and it's also a proactive news gathering approach, meaning we ask our reporters to become experts in their beats. They develop relationships with people who are the business people, and they want to develop a rapport and a relationship connection so that they can tell people things sometimes maybe they don't want out there, but provides the kind of market intelligence that people must have and buy a subscription to get that. The museum opportunity and helping it nurse it back into its current status with its 22-person board and the thriving nature of it, yet it's a few grants away from being struggling, which is what all cultural nonprofits, especially in Florida, are dealing with right now, is another world that I am grateful to have been a part of, because it's a community of photographers and people who like photography that I don't think I would have necessarily connected to had I not gotten involved. So it affords me a chance to match my own creative photographic ambitions with a group of people who love it.
In the nicest way, you and your nerd friends can talk about photos together, and that's awesome. Again, you find those people, you're like, yes, I need you, and that's all we want. We all want someone we can nerd out with. And I love 100%. That you are really good at doing that. You are so good at finding people and being like, here is your place to do this. And I think that, I've noticed that with TBCN. I've noticed that, just talking to you now about the Florida Museum of Photographic Arts, you're doing this, you're making homes.
Oh, it's a great way to put it, EJ. I mean, you also mentioned this nice factor.
Yeah.
And when my wife and I moved here from Miami, the first thing she said, why are these people being so nice to us? I mean, I think Tampa Bay has sort of a connection point for people who love to network here. I think nice can sometimes be construed as potentially suspect, but I also think that people want to be treated how they want to be treated. And so sometimes that can be a bad rap.
I like your journalism side coming out there. Nice can be suspect. As you know, you're like, what do you want? What are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Journalism's such an interesting thing because it's scary. It's current, especially business is scary right now. For our organizations. And how does it feel now? Do you feel in the last couple of years you're feeling the work change? What's your environment right now?
Well, luckily, the thirst and the demand for hyper-local business news has only accelerated. Our audience at the Business Journal continues to grow, which is a great thing. And because of that, and we have a great publisher and sales team, and we do events all year long that do recognition. And so, and with growth compared to other parts of the country, which have seen a lot of outward migration, people coming here means that our growth is matching the community's growth. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about, right? There's also a lot of things to question and ask questions about. And so luckily, we have the right team in place. We have a great team of editors who understand what the value proposition is. And we want to break news. I mean, that's the thing here. If there's a message that people want to pay for, it's exclusive, local, hyper-local breaking news. Yeah. The rest of the media world, general circulation newspapers, it's not so much. I mean, and there are a lot of content producers who may not have been trained in the way and understanding how to fairness, accuracy, urgency. And the fairness piece is a key thing, EJ, too, which is, and making sure that you get a lot of voices. And we're in a climate where diversity, equality, inclusion, DEI, just gender plurality. I mean, these are under attack, and we're all aware of it. But pushing those envelopes, asking questions about it, finding many kinds of voices, not relying on the usual suspects. All comes down to source relationships and relationship building. And so I believe that, and it's not just. I play one on TV. Yeah. It's just you have to be honest and authentic.
Yeah, I know a film critic, Steve Parcell, who worked for the St. Pete Times for years, and just watching that transition out for him was shocking, I think. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel there's still a home for that print. So I love that you guys have still found that people are hungrier for it. So I want to ask you something less businessy, a little bit more of your creative side. We're seeing the digital and AI imagery pop up even more, and not good and bad of that as well.
Yeah.
But do you still think, especially working in the museum, that there is still a need for that classic physical, I can touch it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the Soldier's Lens will show that. If you're coming in to see the prints on the wall, we also have a collage that has all the I love group photographs. I have a collection of them. We sort of channel those into this wall form, and so I think the tactile process of going and seeing it for real, getting away from the screen. We had been curating the show on monitors, and the elation has come from seeing them all on the wall. They printed beautifully. I do think you do want to get into that situation where you're actually seeing it. I think there's a lot of buzz around AI. I mean, especially using it in a journalistic sense. I mean, if it can be efficient in terms of time savings. For research and other kinds of things, I think journalists are still working out how to do that. But on the creative side, you're right. I think that we still want to find print masters and people who use film and who are using large format cameras or doing kind of exploring new ways of expression. And I think we don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah, as someone who struggles with thumbnails for YouTube videos, AI has been a help, and while I'm being able to do other things. So I don't think it's a dirty word, but I also do think I want to see artists still push themselves.
Yes.
And speaking of artists pushing themselves, let's say I'm a local artist and I want to connect with the Florida Museum of Photographic Arts. What's the way I go about this? How do I reach out to you and your whole wonderful team?
It's a great question. I think it's just getting involved on whether or not it's as a member, becoming a member. We just started a photo club that is well subscribed. People are loving it. The community is growing. We have a board again, and we've gotten to the point of maturity where we have committee structure. It's picking a committee, getting involved in that. Maybe not joining the board, but being a part of it, because we obviously want to raise money. But I think people can get involved there. There's a member show every year, for example, and so their work could be a part of that. There's an international photography competition that the museum does that has 2,000 images as part of this. I mean, it's crazy. It's been a fabulous thing. And so there are all kinds of ways to get involved. I think it's showing up. It's coming to the events and coming to the galleries and just being involved. I think that goes for any kind of a pursuit, is just being consistent and finding your boundaries, but just getting involved and figuring out what you can offer and not getting overextended, but being present.
As someone who seems like a very hungry individual for more knowledge, more industries, more anything, what's something that you haven't done but you want to do? What is something that Alexis is like, oh, I didn't get to do this, but I really wanted to? Deep sea diving. Who knows?
Oh,
anything.
no, not deep sea diving, because that would freak me out.
Yeah,
I don't think that. I'm thinking, I like to snorkel occasionally. Wow, EJ, that's kind of an interesting one. Because usually, if there's something like that, I will go ahead and do it.
Seems like
I think it's around multimedia. I think it's probably furthering my own photographic work. Again, sometimes you wonder, like, why have an exhibition?
Yeah.
And Instagram, for example, has been that. It's been a sort of a global community, and there are people now that I follow and who follow me, and I have a pretty big following there, but who I know now for 10 years, but we never met, right?
That's
and
awesome.
so I think there's some desire to wander. I like to my wife and I like to road trip. I like to wander off back roads and find things to photograph that I think are funny or have some, or just things that are sort of photo exploration. And so having more time to do some stuff like that would be part of it. I don't know that I'm like aching to go learn Russian or become a scholar in in physics or petrochemicals or I don't know. To your point, I think it's if it's something I try to make it happen.
Yeah, I love you've mentioned it a couple times, mixed media, because I think that is such a key part to our current art landscape.
Yeah.
I can watch a movie on my television, but I'm also doing something on my phone. But I'm also doing, and I think we need to realize that there is a power to mixed media. Is that something that you're noticing as well as that rise of different platforms, how we're using mixed fabrics even in art, and we're doing it with photo and everything? Are you seeing that rise and embracing it?
I think so. I think there's this sort of juxtaposition between multitasking, low attention span theater, and actually kind of a capacity to do different things at once. I mean, I've also done drama, and I have a group of friends out in Oregon, and we get together and do all kinds of performance art, sound work. It's all improvisational. I mean, I think that's really where it gets to the heart of it too, EJ, is improvisation and the theory of yes and certainly one of my own personal philosophies, which relates to all of this, right? It's about what else, how can we what else in this interview can we talk about, or when I'm interviewing people, what am I missing? Where else can we take this? Photographically, looking up close, looking far away. In the work the museum does around putting cameras in the hands of under-resourced kids. How could that be evolved and developed as an educational platform that helps the museum stay afloat and sustainable, but also enriches communications careers? It's the work that we do here at TBCN around work development, helping people be confident in their innate natural abilities that they feel inside. I mean, because that's the way it was for me. That's when I look around and I'm looking at photographs, I take a chance and look at weird things. And while I have 100,000 images on my phone, how much of those see the light of day? Very few. Yeah. But it's because I'm not worried about exploring the risk taking of all that. So I mean, I don't know where that answer went, but it's around doing lots of work.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that you want to push, and that's something we do at TBCN, is getting these people who I don't think normally would have realized that they can do it.
That's right.
That is such a key point to this, is being like, you can, it's here.
That's right.
And I love that you're such a hi, come, and I think that's a good quality to have. I don't think a lot of people have that, especially, again, I think of business people, especially business-minded people, as very serious.
They are.
I think
They're super serious.
I think you are a wonderful balance of being serious, but not taking yourself too serious.
You can't. I mean, the minute you do, it's precious, and and it's obnoxious, and it's nauseating, and I don't know. I've lived that way at the Business Journal too, which is, we don't know everything. We don't know everything. We don't know it all. You can say you're walking through with humility, but then you got to preach it, and so. But I think that happens in life if you're open and you're curious. I think then you can help, to your earlier point, guide and help people find their own sense of power and growth.
Yeah, you nailed two things there. Is that curiosity, that improv. Those two things helped me as a interviewer. I've learned to, what do they say? Bounce back off of that. And I think that's such a, but that also helps in business. That helps in art. That helps in so many different outlets, and I love that you are. I didn't think improv would be something out of your mouth today, so I thought that was a fun thing because I think that's such a key again to business meetings.
That's right.
When you say something, I can say something back. There's people who don't have that skill.
Yeah, as opposed to no, which is closing it off. It's the ballet neutral. It's the positioning of that, and I can tell that you've grown. I mean, we've known each other a while, and having a chance to spend some time with you shows that you have followed your own passion and career, and doing what you love, right? I mean, sometimes the money doesn't follow, but it helps
your soul.
It helps your soul.
You get rich there. You get rich in that.
That's right.
way.
And sometimes, and it's with people. It's the people that we work with. It's the communities that we build. And that's part of what makes life important.
Yeah, I will never forget, we taught one girl here named Ursula years ago who moved to LA and has done so much with her life. And I'm like, what do you mean that you started off here and now you're over there? It's just amazing to see.
Yeah.
And I love that you've done that. What's next for you? What is?
Oh goodness. I think it's continuing to figure out ways to I had open heart surgery this year, which
my goodness,
yeah, we buried the lead. It's not to talk about my health issues, but I'm lucky because it was not emergent.
Yeah.
I was having vertigo, had an EKG, progressed up the chain, ended up at St. Joe's before Memorial Day, where they send a camera up your body, realized there was a lot of blockage, had bypass surgery. It changes your perspective on stress and what's important, and so. Birthdays have a little more meaning. I'm feeling really good. I'm very, very lucky at 63. But I think that
we're bearing also that leads.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh my God, stop. Go home. You know what? Let me just get you a ride home because my friend, you're doing too much.
Oh no, I feel good.
No, I really appreciate that. No, I really I love what you do, and I love that you have this passion, and then you still want to do more.
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm hitting 60.
Not?
I'm staying home.
Well,
I'm taking photos at my house of my kitchen. Like,
well, part of that, I mean, is hanging out at home and watching our shows, right? I mean, and spending time with the cats, right? I mean, I think we need that balance between finding the downtime, getting good rest, going to, I'm off tomorrow. I'm going down to Anna Maria. My wife and I are going to go walk on Holmes Beach, which is beautiful. But I'll shoot a lot of photographs. I think that's the thing is finding with that experience, treating stress and work-life balance, even though I'm a working editor, and I'm taking advantage of the network I have by being able to get people on the phone, and having built that rapport, I can connect, and on behalf of the Business Journal, that's a big value.
I think you are a good lesson to workaholics out there of still finding that you want to do it all, but also you're still finding that balance. I think that is key again.
Yeah, you really have to do that because, I mean, if you don't, you're out of whack. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so. If that's sort of where I'm learning, I'm learning and growing, and and this community has been fantastic. I mean, I think having these opportunities, watching this community grow, I don't know that I would have predicted having been here, 22 years. But
that's awesome.
But look what's happened.
So where can we find you? We have an Instagram you've mentioned multiple times.
Yes.
I would like to know where we can find you if anyone wants to see your artwork. And
please do. I'd love that. It's my Instagram is my name. So it's at Alexis Muellner, Muellner. My wife and I debate about how to pronounce my name.
Yes.
One more time, a little slowly without coffee. It's Alexis Muellner. That's my Instagram feed. I would welcome the connection there. And then I'm pretty, you searched. Pretty easy to find.
Yeah, you are a Googleable human.
Human. There's lots of digital footprint. The soldier's lens. If you search that term, you can find the link to that project. And as I said, it's ongoing. We're going to do it in next year.
Yep.
And there's a lot still to be tapped there, we think. And so should it be easy to find me? I mean, through this organization. I don't know. I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, honestly, we can go outside and you'll probably be out there taking a photo of something.
I probably will. Between my walk back on this mall, I will spend some time doing that.
Oh,
exactly.
My goodness. Please, let's take the phone out of your hand. Alexis, thank you so much for
EJ, thank you.
This 30 minutes went by way too fast.
Oh, my goodness. No, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. And thank you guys for tuning in. This has been On the Grid with EJ Moreno. What a lovely conversation. Alexis is such a powerhouse in making Tampa Bay better through his business journalism, through his photo work, and just showing us what we can do here at TBCN. So I want to say thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you guys tune in to our next episode.